Yes, good morning, dear students. I welcome you all for the last class of mine. Again, since this is the second section of the last day of your online content classes. As I told you, like today, I'll be dealing with another text from the same paper, that is European Classics in Translation. You have a text called Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky. There's the great Russian novel called Crime and Punishment, which was later on translated into English by David Magashak. Now, this particular novel is one of the great is one of the great reading books in the world literature. It's one of the great reading books in the world literature, and Fyodor Dostoevsky is another, again, the second greatest Russian writer after Leo Tolstoy. Leo Tolstoy, Fyodor Dostoevsky, and you have Anton Chekhov, and a few other notable writers from Russian literature. Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment. This particular book, again, it's been adopted into 25 different languages for movies. Again, the film has been adopted for 25 different languages to in order to make a movie. Uh, and further, Dostoevsky has written few important books like The Idiot, which was published in the year 1869. It is The Poor Folk, the book called Poor Folk, which got published in the year 1846. 1846. That was his first creative piece of art. It was Poor Folk, got published in the year 1846. Later on, it is The Idiot, got published in 1869, and The Brothers Karamazov, published in the year 1880, and Crime and Punishment, published in the year 1866. Published in the year 1866, and you also have The Gambler, the book titled The Gambler, which was published in the year 1867. 1867. Crime and Punishment, as I told you, is one of the significant book and is one of the most famous novels. It's one among the most famous novels in world literature. Its influence is wide. Its influence is widespread. Its influence is widespread beyond the borders of Russia. So you cannot limit the popularity of this book just just to Russia. The influence or the impact or the kind of uh, what a kind of popularity of this book has crossed the boundaries of Russia. It is one of the hugely circulated, subscribed book across the world. Even today, people buy Crime and Punishment and read. That is the popularity. So it was published in 1866, way back in 1866, almost 160 plus years. Okay, even after 160 plus years, the popularity of this book has not decreased. Has not decreased. And Crime and Punishment, as I told you, is one of the significant novels of the world literature, one of the famous or significant novels of the world literature. Its influence is widespread. Its influence is widespread, and it has reached it has crossed the borders of Russia. Uh, Here he is a creative artist. Here he is a creative artist. His creative artist quality or again, the nature is well exposed and comes out at top and comes out at top. As a novelist, Dostoevsky excels means he simply outmatches everybody. This novel is considered as the first psychological novel in world literature, the first psychological novel in world literature. The remarkable thing is that Dostoevsky should have given all the tendentious endings, that it is only in few lines in the epilogue again that we see. Again, we will speak about that later on. The novelist The novel is up to date. The novel is up to date of burning problems of his time. The burning problems of his time. So the novel is up to date of the burning problems of his time, including the problems of nihilism, total detachment from social set of rules, norms. Again, nihilism, to be nihilistic, to be detached, outcasted from society. Okay, a sort of pseudo-scientific anarchism which found expression, in a complete denial of the prevalent moral aesthetic standards, and was so fashionable among the Russian highbrows in 60s of the 19th century. Russia had so many problems during 19th century. During that period, after 1850s, 1860s, during those decades, Russia faced so many problems. So people, as I told you, even in the wasteland, so it happened across entire Europe. People started to move from rural areas to urban areas in search of jobs, because in rural areas concentrated on agriculture sector, urban areas urban areas, urban regions, usually cities, they covered industries. So many new industries were set up, and people, in order to find the jobs in cities, in order to work in factories or industries, they started to move towards big cities in Russia, like in other parts of Europe. Russia also faced the same kind of sociological problem. As I told you, the novel is very much update with the contemporary issues that Russia faced during that time. So, as I told you, problems of the time, a sort of pseudo-scientific anarchism which found expression in a complete denial of the prevalent moral aesthetic standards, and was so fashionable among the Russian highbrows in the 60s of the 19th century. So, as a creative writer, or a creative artist, Dostoevsky is one who ensures his creative work is not only contemporary but also of universal significance. This is that again. This is very much there in Crime and Punishment, in which the magnificent gallery of human types, and the great human problems completely overshadow the again contemporary issues. What I mean to say, like here as a writer, as an artist, Fyodor Dostoevsky is trying to go deep into the human psyche. He's trying to record whatever that happens in an individual's mind, individual's mind. So at the same time, he is considered as the creator of modern psychological novel. Fyodor Dostoevsky is considered as what creator of modern psychological novel, and he is the world's profoundest and subtlest psychologist in the field of novel. He is the world's profoundest and subtlest psychologist in the field of novel. And his novels are larger than life. His interest lies in extreme states and situations which are presented with profound insight. Profound insight. So his focus in his works mainly focuses his focus or his area of literary expression is he goes deep into the human psyche. At the same time, he throws such vulnerable characters into many existing social problems, and he just watches how such vulnerable characters behave in such extreme sociological problems. You have so many sociological problems. You are a vulnerable character. You are not ready to understand, you are not ready to be composed, okay, to face such problems. So what will happen to such individuals who are exposed to such sociological problems? People, young talents, young minds who are unemployed, who are jobless but well qualified, and they don't have proper job for earning, they don't know how to lead life in big cities, they'll be living in a small cabin like room. So, what will be the mindset of such people? They'll be vulnerable. They'll be behind money. They need money to sustain life in cities, big cities. In Russia, you have no. Russia has two big cities. One is Moscow, and the another city is Saint Petersburg. Saint Petersburg is it's almost like our Mumbai, Bombay. Saint Petersburg is considered as the commercial capital or business capital of Russia. You have Moscow, which is considered as the political capital of Russia, and these two cities welcomed so many such young vulnerable youths, attracted such young vulnerable youths from remotest parts of Russia. Remotest parts of Russia. You should not forget that Russia is bigger than 3 times bigger than or 3 to 5 times bigger than India. Okay. Geographically, it has got huge landscape with minimum population, with few number of people living, but still Russia too is facing too many economical problems. I am speaking about the problems that existed during Dostoevsky's times. Dostoevsky associated himself with with the socialist circle called Petrashki Circle. Petrashki Circle, Petrashevsky. Petrashki Circle, again, it's a group of common minded people who are fighting for what? Who fought for socialist ideology. Socialist ideologies. They wanted to establish a socialist government. So socialism emerged from Russia. People like Lenin. Okay, they try again. The Tsar dynasty, Tsar kings were ruling Russia till 1917. In 1917, Russian Revolution took place, and we all know what happened with Lenin. Lenin became the first president of Russia, and later on it was Stalin, and now it is Vladimir Putin who is ruling Russia. So his association with Petrovsky Circle uh, forced forced the authorities to to imprison him and send him to jail. Forced the authorities to imprison him and send him to jail. He was sent to jail and he was captivated in jail. He was sent to Omsk, a remote place called Omsk, somewhere in Siberia. Okay, he was kept in jail for 4 years from January 1850 to January 1854. For 4 years, he was in jail. During that time, he was able to meet some of the prison inmates, who had a kind of impact on this writer. He met so many prison inmates, and through the conversation with those inmates, he was able to record the mindset of a criminal. He was able to he was able to understand the mindset of a criminal. You know, this particular book is very, very important because uh, uh, it deals with psychology of a man who has committed a crime. What happens once you commit a crime? Imagine that you all are innocents, you are all are having pure mind, you are not a bad person or evil minded person who do not want to inflict any kind of pain on anybody. You are such a gem, but the situation, the sociological condition forces you to involve in crime. So you commit that crime. So what happens after that? So you will start feeling what? Guilty. You will start feeling guilty and you cannot express it or share it with anybody. You inwardly suffer. You inwardly suffer for the crime that you have committed. Intentionally, by nature, you are a man of noble character. Very, very humble, very, very noble. You are a gem. You are not a bad man. But what happens if the sociological conditions forces you to commit some crime or the other or involve in any criminal activity? So what happens after that? You start repenting, you start suffering, and that guilty consciousness hurts you immensely. Hurts you immensely. So that is what Dostoevsky wants to focus on. His area is my again his writing, his focus is on that. So what all the kind of pain or mental agony or the kind of mental torture that man normally undergoes. A man who is naturally good in nature but involves in criminal activity and commits the crime, and what happens after that? He will inwardly suffer, he will inwardly suffer and undergo so much of pain, and he can feel the agony or the pain. Okay, as a writer, he was able to record that psychological or the mindset of such a criminal, such a criminal. You know, E.M. Foster, another important 20th century writer, E.M. Foster. Okay, again a writer again who wrote a passage to India, a book called Passage to India. E.M. Foster, in fact, says no English novelist has explored the man's soul so deeply as Dostoevsky. Dostoevsky is not a Russian English novelist. He's a Russian novelist, but no English novelist. Not no English novelist means compared to this Russian novelist Dostoevsky, no other English novelist in our England is able to explore man's soul so deeply as Dostoevsky, as Dostoevsky. So, uh, as I told you again, as I told you, Crime and Punishment is both philosophical and a psychological novel. It's the true, again the novel that presents what the true picture of Russian society, that presents the true picture of Russian social society, again the vulnerability of young unemployed Russians to new ideas is very well presented. So Dostoevsky's literary output explores human psychology in the troubled political, social, and spiritual context of the 19th century Russian society. So you should keep the physical, again the political, social, spiritual, religious context of 19th century Russian society. So if you understand that, it will be easy to understand this novel, because the prevailing the prevailing conditions, sociological conditions, political situations, or the spiritual uh, conditions, like, or even the religious conditions, like that was present during that time in Russia, had an impact on every single youth of Russia. Okay, every single youth of Russia. And government policies normally will have an impact on each and everyone's life. We should not forget that. Okay, and everything is connected to the last citizen of the society, isn't it? So, as I told you, when he was in prison, he made a careful study of thieves when he was in prison at Omsk, helped him to create a basis for crime and punishment. You know, it helped him to create a basis for crime and punishment. So, what is the plot? The plot is, what is the plot of this novel? The plot is a student of law named Raskolnikov, Raskoli, Raskolny, Kolnikov. Raskolnikov. Again, he is the protagonist, the hero of this novel. So he is an young man. a student of law, his name is Raskolnikov, believed in division of people as ordinary men and extraordinary men. Okay, he believes that there should be a category and people should be categorized as ordinary men and extraordinary men. So he believed in the concept, he believed in the theory of Napoleon Bonaparte. You know, Napoleon Bonaparte was all set to become the great emperor of France. He almost won half of Europe, isn't it? And you know, Napoleon Bonaparte is considered as the great ruler of France. He was influenced by Napoleon Bonaparte, one of the ruler of France. So he believed that great men like Napoleon Bonaparte have the right, have the right to rule, have the right to rule. Again, it is nothing but it's a kind of misled misconception. It's again he was misled with the history that he has read about Napoleon Bonaparte. He felt that all the great men, as again, whomsoever has the ability to do whatever he want, if he is powerful, if he wants to seize power, if he wants to have people under his command, he can. Extraordinary men have that caliber or capacity to use their power and to dictate terms to people. They have the capacity or power to dictate terms to people. So he believed in that theory. He believed in that, again, Napoleon Bonaparte's theory of extraordinary men having extraordinary capability or ability to have complete command or command over people, to use power, and to capitalize on people. Okay, so again, that is what he believed in. He believed in that theory. Who? The hero of this novel, that is Raskolnikov. Okay, the hero, again, as I told you, kills. So in order, he is from a remotest part of Russia. He is a law student. He has come to St. Petersburg, the beautiful city called St. Petersburg. He has come there, okay, for his studies. He has completed his law. Okay, he is jobless. He is of 25 years old, very, very handsome. He lives in a cabin like room, a small cabin like room, okay, which symbolizes what? Poverty. He is in extreme poverty. Okay, whereas he has got a sister and a mother living in his village, in the remotest part of Russia, and this man is living in St. Petersburg. So we'll see what happens. The hero has to, again, what happens in the story? He kills two women. He kills two women. One is the money lender. Okay, money lender. Her name is uh, Alyona Ivanova. Alyona Ivanova. Alyona, Alyona Ivanova. Ivanova. Inova la Ivanova. Okay. Alyona Ivanova. She is the pawnbroker. She is the one who lends money in the city called St. Petersburg. So he has heard about this money lender called Alyona Ivanova. He wants to borrow money from her. Okay, but he wants to know again. He wants to money again. He wants to take money on the basis of credit, but he cannot get it because he doesn't have anything for surety. Okay, so what he does, so he has to steal money from that lady because he has to send money for the dependents. That is his mother and his sister who is staying in the village So he has to earn money and send that money to his sister, younger sister, okay, and also his mother. So he kills Alyona Ivanova, an old pawnbroker, and also he also kills his again her stepsister. Stepsister, her name is Lizaveta Ivanova. So Lizaveta Ivanova again was killed by Raskolnikov in order to avoid any kind of again first-hand proof against if there is any case, like in order to again avoid like in order to avoid the stepsister being a proof for his murder. Again, he doesn't want her to be the witness. So what he does, so he was helpless. He was helpless in order to avoid her being a witness. In his case, what he does, he was helpless, and he also kills Lizaveta Ivanova. Lizaveta Ivanova. So the stepsister of Alyona Ivanova, the money lender. So he kills the two old women. Okay, and what happens after that? The hero has to confront. The hero has to confront the clever investigating officer called Porfiry Petrovich. Firy Petrovich. Petrovich. It is difficult to remember these names in the exam, but still, again, Russian names are quite difficult to remember. Porfiry Petrovich is an official investigating Raskolnikov's crime. The hero has to constantly confront the clever investigating police officer called Porfiry Petrovich, who understands who the real killer is. Because again, Porfiry Petrovich knows that it is Raskolnikov who has killed those two women. But still, he doesn't want to take him into his custody because he is fully aware that Raskolnikov is inwardly suffering, again suffering inwardly soon after killing those two women. Because he firmly believes that Raskolnikov one day or the other will come and surrender in the station. So Porfiry Petrovich is very, very smart, though he is aware that this man is the official, means actual killer of these two women. He intentionally again avoids taking Raskolnikov into his custody. So the murderer is tortured by the torments of conscience, and in the end confesses the crime also. So, as I told you again, Raskolnikov is a 23-year-old law student, handsome, well built, dark eyes, dark brown hair, but raggedly dressed. Again, lives in a tiny coffin like ghetto. ಒಂದು ಶವದ ಪೆಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ತರ ಇರೋ ಒಂದು ಸಣ್ಣ ಗೆಟೋ ಅಂತಾರೆ, ಅದೊಂದು ಬಾಕ್ಸ್ ತರ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. He normally goes there just to sleep because in a city like St. Petersburg, he cannot afford a big house for rent. He sleeps in a coffin like ghetto, a small cabin like ghetto, okay? And so that is how he survives in that city. He kills those two women. Okay, what happens later on? The novel is divided into 6 parts, and as an epilogue in the end, the novel is divided into 6 parts, and the novel has an epilogue in the end. In first part, what do we read? In part 1, we read Raskolnikov murdering the two women. Raskolnikov murders 2 women in part 1. So what do we see in part 2, 3, 4, 5? So we deal with here Raskolnikov, again the author, again crime, again Fyodor Dostoevsky allots chapter 2, 3, 4, 5 for what? For a kind of the process, like deal again these chapters deals with the process of detection and also the mental agony of the protagonist. All the major chapters of this novel, like 2, 3, 4, 5, has been allotted again for investigation, and also simultaneously, on the other hand, this man, police officer, is investigating the case. On the other hand, you have Raskolnikov, the protagonist, who is suffering inwardly. He is under what? The mental agony. Mental agony of the protagonist can be seen or experienced in those four chapters, 2, 3, 4, 5. What do we see in chapter 6? In chapter 6, we see the protagonist confessing his crime. He confesses his crime. He is tried and sentenced to exile. He is tried in the court. So he is tried in the court and is sent to go on exile. Okay. So who are the other characters that you see? The other characters is like you have Raskolnikov's family, his sister Rodion Romanovich Raskolnikov. You have Avadotya, again Rodion Romanovich Raskolnikov is the central character who is the hero. You have Avadotya Romanovich Raskolnikov, his devoted sister, his loving sister, Avadotya Romanovich Raskolnikov. Rodion Romanovich Raskolnikov is the hero. Rodian. Rodion Raskolnikov is the hero. You have Avadotya. Avdotya. Avadotya Romanova Raskolnikov. Romanovna Raskolnikov, a devoted sister. You have Pulcheria Alexandrovna Raskolnikov, their mother. This is a micro family, and you also have Malmeladov family. Malmela Meladov. Okay, Meladov. Okay, Malmeladov family. You have an alcoholic government clerk called Marmaladev, again who always boozes, who happens to be the father of the heroine called Sonia, Sonia. Sonia is the heroine, the fiance of Raskolnikov, whom he meets, accidentally, because Raskolnikov, while he was going on a street in a city like St. Petersburg, finds this drunkard, alcoholic father of Sonia. What is his name? Marmaldova. So Marmaldova, who is the father of Sonia, is found drunk and has fallen on the street. And this man, he finds him on the street, and after asking his address, it thinks of helping him. It takes him to his house, and there he meets Sonia. Sonia, happens to be a prostitute. She is a prostitute who works in a brothel house. And Raskolnikov, even after knowing that she is a prostitute, he falls in love. It's a beautiful love story. Like, he falls in love, but it's nothing to do with the physical attraction. It's more to do with the mental connection. Both of them are again closely connected because she morally supports Raskolnikov. It is Sonia who advises Raskolnikov to go and surrender instead of suffering inwardly. It is better to surrender before the police. It is Sonia who advises Raskolnikov to surrender. So Sonia is his fiancée, and you have Katerina Ivanova, the second wife of Marmaldov, the stepmother of Sonia. You have Polenka, Kolya, and Lyoya, means Lyoya. The Katrina's children means Sonia's stepmother's children. You also have Ivanovich, Avadotya's former employee. Avadotya is Rodion Raskolnikov's sister. Avadotya's former employee. He tries to sexually harass Avadotya, but Raskolnikov, in fact, warns him in the novel. And you have Marfa Petrovna, his wife. You have Luzin Petrovich, a rich man who is engaged to Daunia. Okay, and you have Razumin Dmitry Prokofich, a close friend of Razumin is a close friend of Raskolnikov. Apart from that, you have so many other minor characters. Okay, so As I told you, the plot is Raskolnikov executes his plan of killing the two women, and you have Porfiry Petrovich, detective, police officer detecting the case. And the third issue in the plot is Raskolnikov's alienation. Raskolnikov is completely alienated. He is scared of going out of his cabin because after killing those two ladies, even knocking a door again, even if somebody knocks a door at his room, he feels completely again scared. The reason is, I know, the reason is, as I told you, the mental agony or the kind of inward suffering. He is scared because he suffers because of that inferiority, not the guilty consciousness, not the inferiority, guilty consciousness, because he has killed two ladies. For again, he has looted those, he has stolen some things from their house, and now he suffers because of that criminal act. Raskolnikov's love for Sonia is another important aspect in the plot. You also have the last part, that is the again Raskolnikov heading towards regeneration or moving towards regeneration. A changed, transformed Raskolnikov can be seen at the end of the novel. So Dostoevsky is able to sustain the artistic economy, force and tempo of part 1 throughout the novel. Dostoevsky's capacity to subdue the time is appreciable. Entire span of the story is only of 2 weeks. The entire story, the entire all the incidents that you see in the story takes place within 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks. In that way, Dostoevsky's artistic capacity to subdue the time is really appreciable. Is really appreciable. Epilogue after 6 parts of the story is used for what? Is used for it is used to show Raskolnikov's regeneration. Is shown repenting. Raskolnikov is repenting his deed. His deed again. That is what epilogue is meant for. You can see the hero is repenting for his deed, for his act. You see, a close reading of the novel reveals that Raskolnikov is a split personality. Is a split personality. You can see both the qualities in the hero. He is a man with noble heart, but what? But the social situations, sociological condition forces him to involve in criminal act. Raskolnikov, that is the reason why you can call this hero as a split personality, because he has got both the qualities. On one occasion, he appears to be too good, true means very good in nature. On the other side, he also appears to be a criminal. He kills two women. Through that act, he becomes a criminal. By that act, he becomes a criminal, isn't it? So Raskolnikov is portrayed by Dostoevsky as the representative of young Russian intellectual whose fate is intricately linked with the fate of modern Russia. So you have an young Russian whose fate is intricately linked with the fate of modern Russia. So the fate of modern India, postmodern India, having an intricate link to the fate of the young youth of India. So what I mean to say is, we are living in society. We are living in a democratically elected government ruling society. So everything is interconnected. The fate of government, the fate of administration, bureaucracy will have an impact on our lifestyle, isn't it? So that is what is very well knit by the writer here. He has very well brought out that particular concept. And novel can also be considered as a parable of the fate of nihilistic and skeptical youth in the 19th century Russia. Nihilistic and skeptical. Nihilistic means completely detached. At the same time, skeptical about the future, skeptical about their future days, okay, about their future. ಸೊ ಮುಂದೆ ಭವಿಷ್ಯ ಹೇಗೋ ಏನೋ ಅನ್ನೋ ಒಂದು ಅಂಧಕಾರ ಕತ್ತಲೆ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ಯುವ ಪೀಳಿಗೆ, ಕೆಲಸವಿಲ್ಲದ ಅಂತ ಯುವ ಪೀಳಿಗೆಯ ಒಂದು ಮನಸ್ಸನ್ನ ತುಂಬಾ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಚಿತ್ರಿಸಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾರು, ಕಾದಂಬರಿಕಾರರು. ಸೊ ನಾವೆಲ್ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಬಿ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ಡ್ ಆಸ್ ಎ parable of the fate of nihilistic and skeptical youth in the 19th century Russia. Through Raskolnikov's story of suffering, the writer envisions the grave error and moral sufferings of those who cut themselves off from established authority and moral restraints. So there are established authorities like government, judiciaries, bureaucracies. There are every government institutions or establishments which will have a control or command over you. You cannot act according to your free will. You cannot try like Raskolnikov to be Hitler or to be Napoleon Bonaparte like. Raskolnikov took law in his hands and involved in the criminal act of killing those two old women. Then the pawnbroker called Alyona Ivanova. Okay, Ivanova. So again, through this story, that is what again Dostoevsky is trying to convey. Through Raskolnikov's story of suffering, the writer envisions the grave error and moral sufferings of those who cut themselves. So we all cut themselves. We all live ourselves in a different world. We all cut them ourselves. We feel completely detached from the programs of government. Like people who are frustrated with the system, they want to be detached from the established set of rules set by the authorities. The authorities have set some established rules. You have to abide by those rules. What happens if you violate those rules? You will be sent to prison, right? So we all have that revolutionary zeal to do something greater, to achieve something bigger in life. But for that, to achieve bigger, to do greater, you cannot adopt unlawful path or illegal route. You cannot take an illegal route to achieve success in life. This man is tempted to become Napoleon Bonaparte. He feels that again he can become a Napoleon Bonaparte like figure, because if he wants, he can, like, if he steals money from rich people and if he shares it with the poor people, that means like sharing capital means money equally with the poor people. By sharing money equally with the poor people, he can be a revolutionary leader like Napoleon Bonaparte. It's a false belief. It's a false pseudo belief. Okay, that nobody, not you and me, can, even if we try to be, you cannot become a dictator like figure. You and me cannot do that. You might be having so many friends, too many followers, but that doesn't mean that in a democratic setup you cannot become a dictator and take law into your hands, isn't it? This man took law into his hands, took unlawful path or illegal route. So what happened later on? He was sent to jail. There he repented, and there he had that scope or time to regenerate or to change or transform himself. Okay, and Raskolnikov alternates from complete self willpower and extreme meekness and submissiveness. The sixth part is the most logical place to end the novel. It's the best place and the logical place to end the novel, and Dostoevsky achieves that perfection by ending the play at the right situation. Sorry, ending the novel at the right situation. So he feels it's the right time to end the novel, and he ends it at the perfect time. The epilogue is used to drive home Raskolnikov's transformation and to tie up the loose ends. So the writer has used epilogue to tie up the loose ends. Whatever that he has left out till now, to tie all those loose ends, Raskolnikov, sorry, Dostoevsky uses the epilogue at the end, and at the same time, the epilogue is also used to 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 show again to drive home Raskolnikov's transformation. So, what is the cluster of motives in killing the two old women? The two old money lenders. The cluster of motives is first one poverty, yes, ಬಡತನನೇ ಅವನನ್ನ ಇಬ್ಬರು ಪಾನ್ ಬ್ರೋಕರ್ಸ್ ಅವ್ರ ಮನಿ ಲೆಂಡರ್ಸ್, ಬಡ್ಡಿಗೆ ಸಾಲ ಕೊಡುತ್ತ ಜನ, ಓಕೆ, ಅಂಥವ್ರನ್ನ ಅವರಿಬ್ಬರನ್ನ ಸಾಯಿಸೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಕಾರಣ, the main purpose or the main reason behind those killings is poverty. And the second thing is to improve his financial condition, to improve the financial condition of his family. And the third thing is because of the spiritual recklessness of his youth. The spiritual recklessness of his youth means he hardly cares. He doesn't even bother about the future outcome of the killing. The future, what would be the outcome of the killing? He hardly bothers or concerned about it. That is the reason why, again, he is ready to kill those two women and he performs that act. Isn't it? Is it because the spiritual recklessness of his youth? Yes, of course. And the split personality, yes, he was not completely good. He had those again noble qualities somewhere in the corner of his heart, but he was not completely good. He had some evil qualities somewhere in his civil nature, somewhere in his again art. Means somewhere again in his mind, again he also had some evil thoughts. That is the reason why you can call him as split personality. He was not completely good. He was not completely bad. You can call him as a man with split personality. Sometimes he appeared good, on some occasions he appears bad, isn't it? So poverty, again, a powerful motive is poverty-stricken family, social injustice, because you should not forget that Dostoevsky was a socialist. He always wanted to follow, again, he advocated socialist principles throughout his life, okay, which was criticized by George Orwell in the novel The Animal Farm. The Animal Farm, George Orwell's Animal Farm criticizes socialism. No, what happened in Russia after Lenin? It was Stalin who came to power in the name of socialism and became a dictator. He ruled Russia for almost 2 plus decades, isn't it? So what I mean to say here is, in Animal Farm, George Orwell criticizes socialism. So the same socialism which was endorsed by Dostoevsky during his early days. Okay, so social justice has something to do with socialism. Socialism and communist ideologies, communism, again, they are interconnected. So social justice can be achieved through equal share of property, equal share of money. Social equality, again, justice, again, they are the two main principles of socialism. Features or aspects of socialism. Social injustice faced by Sonia forced her to be a prostitute. Sonia belongs to a poor family. She had a mother. Her stepmother had 3 daughters. So Sonia's father was a drunkard. He's a drunkard in the novel. He's a boozer, frequent boozer, alcoholic. So she has to earn money for the livelihood of her family. To sustain her family, she needs money. Okay, so she turns out to be she becomes a prostitute in order to lead her life. So this is the sociological condition, social injustice. So there are so many factors which tempts Raskolnikov to involve in such a criminal act. Sociological factors. So you look at this passage, which is borrowed from the text. No, he says, it's very, very important, which you can use in the exam. He says, did I murder her? Means that old lady, Did I murder her? Question mark. I murdered myself. By killing that old lady, I murdered myself. So that old lady, after her killing, she is dead and gone. She is dead and gone. But what happens to this man after killing that old lady? The guilty mind suffers each and every moment of his life. Okay, you have Lady Macbeth in Macbeth. She suffers inwardly. That is the reason why she walks in her sleepwalking scene. She suffers because of somnambulism, lack of sleep. After killing Macbeth, joining hands with her husband Macbeth. So she washes her hands. She goes to shrink, washes her hands, and applies Arabian perfume and smells it. Whether she has that bloodshed or the blood stains on her hand, she cross checks it quite often. So, what does it mean? The guilt consciousness. Like Lady Macbeth was haunted. Again, is haunted in the play Macbeth. Here you have, again, Raskolnikov, the hero, who suffers due to that guilt. You know, as I told you, did I murder her? This is a very important phrase or lines picked from the text. Did I murder her? I murdered myself. Not the old woman. I crushed myself once for all, forever. So, crushing myself means what? By killing that lady, he is saying that I didn't kill a human being, but a principle. He even says that I did not kill a human being, but a principle. ಒಂದು ಸಿದ್ಧಾಂತನೇ ನಾನು ಸಾಯಿಸ್ಕೊಂಡೆ ಅಂತ, ನನ್ನ ಜೀವನದ ಒಂದು ಸಿದ್ಧಾಂತನೇ ಕೊಂದುಬಿಟ್ಟೆ. By killing that old lady, I killed myself. Did I murder her? I murdered myself, not the old woman. I crushed myself once for all, forever. He spoiled his life by killing those two women forever. He cannot, he cannot be pure now. Okay, he has spoiled his image, not image, like inwardly he suffers because again, his paschatapa, mortification or redemption. He repents for the crime that he has committed. That repentance is, again, it's a mental agony. A paschatapa padodidiyalla, adu mental agony. And the guilt mind never allows you to sleep properly. ನೀವೇನೋ ಒಂದು ಕಳ್ತನ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತೀರಾ, ಏನೋ ಒಂದು ಯಾರಿಗೂ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲದ ಎತ್ಕೊಂಡಿರ್ತೀರಾ without their permission. Can you have a proper sleep? If you are a man with genuine heart, a noble heart, you cannot have a sound sleep. Because that guilt of committing that crime of stealing something from someone, again, will not allow you to have proper sleep. Isn't it? So, to suffer pain is far superior to inflicting pain on others. To suffer pain, so you can undergo physical pain. If somebody inflicts pain on you, it is better to suffer it. Ahimsa, non-violence, is far better than himsa, violence. So to suffer pain is far superior than inflicting pain on others. Inflicting pain on others. You have a hero, Raskolnikov, a tortured soul. So the nature of Raskolnikov's suffering is the major theme of this novel. You also have an extraordinary man theory, which he gets from Napoleon Bonaparte. He keeps him as his idol, icon. Okay, so at the same time, the Nietzschean Superman theory. He follows the Friedrich Nietzsche's Superman theory, like Napoleon Bonaparte. He tries to become a Nietzschean Superman like Napoleon Bonaparte. By serving the mass, if your crime can serve good, by doing a criminal act, if it does good to the large number of people, it cannot be called as crime. That is what Nietzschean ideology of Superman is linked with. If you want to be a Superman, if you want to commit certain crimes, and if that crime can help the large number of people, you cannot call it as a crime, because by doing a small crime or a mistake, you are helping the large number of mass on the other side. That is what you call as extraordinary man theory. You want to be an extraordinary man by involving in a small crime which can prove costly for yourself when it comes to authoritarian rules or norms. But what happens after that? If that same mistake or crime can serve the society for its goodness, for its betterment, so that crime has no scope at all. That is what he believes in. Who? This Raskolnikov. Dostoevsky wanted to show the vulnerability of the young intellectuals for modern ideas like Nietzschean Superman theory, and you have extraordinary man of man theory, and you also have nihilistic theory, nihilism, to be completely detached from the outer world, to live as if nothing is going to hurt or harm. You are not connected with the outer world, to be again, to be like you don't have anything to do again to with what is happening in the outer world. So to be completely detached or nihilistic. Dostoevsky wanted to show the vulnerability, vulnerability. Okay, Lity, Bility, vulnerability of young intellectuals to modern ideas. At the same time, for Raskolnikov, extraordinary men have the right to transgress the boundaries of good and evil. So he believed that extraordinary men have the right to transgress the boundaries of good and evil. They can do anything. So people like Hitler, people like Hitler appear like extraordinary men to Raskolnikov, the hero of this play. People like Hitler, Bonaparte, Alexander, one who go on waging war against neighboring countries, seizing their provinces, confiscating their properties, looting the people, killing the people. So such acts by extraordinary men, okay, is considered as a noble act by misled youth like Raskolnikov. So he feels that extraordinary men like Bonaparte, Alexander the Great, Hitler, they have that right to transgress what? The boundaries of good and evil. They have the gift or talent. They have the gift or talent to lead civilization onward to new achievements which benefit the entire mankind. So they have that extraordinary skill through which they can benefit the extraordinary mankind. So through their achievements, that is what you believe. They do not hesitate to break away law which obstructs their own ambition. So such people like Hitler, Stalin, Mussolini, Kim Jong-un, and also Gaddafi, Saddam Hussein, so the modern day dictators, 20th century dictators, Mussolini, okay, and Idi Amin on the other side. So there were so many dictators. You have read in the history about so many dictators, and even now there are dictators living in other parts of the world. So they don't care for any established set of rules. Extraordinary men do not hesitate to break away from law which obstructs their own ambition. So in North Korea, you cannot have any kind of hairstyle of your wish. You have to follow 42 hairstyles that has been fixed by the great dictator called Kim Jong-un. Even now, you cannot have food of your wish. So whatever the menu food prescribed by the dictator has to be fed to the people in North Korea. People like you are all fortunate to live in a democratic setup like India. So again, his constant reference to Napoleon is another significant aspect. Okay, and Raskolnikov, I am at the again concluding part of the novel. Called Raskolnikov fails to work out on the details of his theory before translating it into action. This results in a psychological disintegration, and self interrogation. He was sympathetic towards poor, knew anguishes of poverty, but he was not a blind humanist. He hated bourgeois and also the rich. Dostoevsky lays emphasis on the surrender of self, again their rebirth, a great conversation, a great conversion. A great conversion is possible. Again, there is a chance for rebirth, regeneration, transformation. A great conversion is possible. Okay, only after great suffering. Only after great suffering, only when you atone your mistakes, only when you try to realize your mistakes, then only you will understand, then only you will give space for rebirth, resurrection, or what? Transformation or conversion. A nihilist who is ever confident of himself and has acquitted himself of all obligations to God rarely thinks of God's presence or existence. It is only through a period of expiation in Siberia Raskolnikov accepts the gospel truth about the Negan, truth about what? About God's again mercy or suffering. Again, then only you will reach, then only you can again achieve penance, then only you can atone to your mistakes and achieve penance. You suffer for your mistakes and regenerate. So you should you should accept that gospel truth only through suffering for what the mistake that you have committed, you can reach God. You can reach God. That is the gospel truth. So, with that note, I end up my class. I thank you one and all for your patient listening. Uh, there were a few more texts to be taught, but due to the lack of time, I was like, I needed another 5 to 6 hours to complete another 5 to 6 texts which were allotted to me. But due to shortage of time, I could not complete all those texts within 5 hours, within the 5 given hours. Thank you, one and all. All the best for your exams and prepare well for the exams. If you still have any doubt regarding the text that I have taught till now, you can ping me, you can call me to my number and ask for any kind of queries that is looming or that you find it difficult to solve. Okay. Thank you, one and all. All the best for your exams.